What is shaking, everybody? Welcome to another podcast recording. Today, we're going to be talking about what I learned from Gary Vaynerchuk's Videographer. So, yesterday, I had the pleasure of heading out to New York City and sitting down at one of Steve Sims. If you don't know who Steve Sims is, he's a phenomenal entrepreneur. He had invited me to one of his speakeasies, and it was in New York City this time around. And one of the speakers was D-Rock, which is Gary Vaynerchuk's videographer. And he had some very interesting insights on content creation and gave us a lot of juice to take back and begin to implement. And I want to share with you some of that in this episode. So one of the big problems that a lot of the audience, so let me give you a heads up of the audience that was listening to D-Rock as he was speaking is they're business owners. Most of them are, I would say, 5-6 years plus into business. There's some veterans, there's some serial entrepreneurs in there, and I remember one or two individuals just starting out, just getting their feet wet in entrepreneurship. So it was a well-rounded group. And so a lot of these folks are coaches. They run small to medium-sized businesses. And a lot of them are content creators. They're the ones that are getting out there on social media themselves to drum up business. Okay. And as I was listening to the questions that were being asked, I noticed a common denominator. And the common denominator was, I'm afraid to turn the camera onto myself and record because I feel awkward. I feel like I don't know what to say once I hit record, and I don't know what to do. And it's just so awkward. I'm just not going to do anything at all. And they were asking him, like, all right, how do what types of content should I be putting out there to get the right people into my pipeline, into my world, so I can begin the marketing experience and the brand experience to get them to buy. And it was funny because the one person said, every time I try to video myself, I try to record the whole bit from beginning to end without messing up. And I get halfway through and I mess up, and then I get frustrated, and then I'm just like, the hell with it. I'm not going to do anything. And I dismiss the whole project and I just go to do something else. And I pulled that person aside and I said, listen, one of the things that helped me when I started recording a lot of content and putting the camera on me was I shot to edit. I shot myself to edit, not to get the whole take in one shot. Right. And you could see like their eyes like light up and they're like, wait, I never thought of that. And I said, yeah, when you record a video, don't try to record it perfectly from beginning to end. If you mess up halfway through, don't sweat it. Keep recording and just pick up where you left off. Pick up where you messed up. You could always fix it in post-production with editing tools like CapCut and Premiere Pro if you're at that level, things like that, right? But let's get back to what D-Rock was talking about as far as content creation, because he said some things that I really want to highlight. So I asked him, there are so many different types of content that you could create. You could create behind the scenes videos, you could create interviews, you could create step-by-steps, how-tos, all types of different types of content. How do you know which one to create? Or is it you got to do all versions? all different types. And he said, well, this is what, Gary's strategy is when we're creating content. And it was mind blowing when he told us how many pieces of content get published per day. Gary publishes 120 to 200 pieces of content per day. So that's multiple IG reels. It's multiple stories, shorts, uh, you name it, right? Pinterest, they're on. Like, so imagine posting 120 to 200 pieces of content a day. Like, right? And you think doing 3 a day or 3 a week is a lot, right? Now you'll probably say, oh, well, he has a big team and he's got all these people doing it for him. Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying you have to post 200 pieces of content a day, but here's what I am saying. What D-Rock said is the reason why they could post that much content per day is because basically what they do is they look in the comments of all of Gary's posts and they look for the questions, the relevant questions, the questions that are being asked by multiple people, but it's the same question, right? And they'll pick 4 or 5 questions every single day and bring them to Gary's attention and say, these are some pretty good questions here that we found in the comments. And then Gary will go ahead and create content around those questions. Okay. And put his point of view on them. And I thought about that. I said, wow, doesn't that take the guesswork out of creating content? And it sure does. It sure does. So what he was saying was the best way to create content is to get your audience involved. One of the big things that he does and Gary does is, whether it be in their Instagram stories or their shorts or anything, they're constantly asking questions like, how can I help you today? Or what's one big question that you still might have about XYZ topic? And then they just wait. And you'll get, he was teasing. He was like, when you ask those types of questions in a post, you'll get the spam comment, you'll get a troller comment, perhaps, you'll get the cryptocurrency, scam post. But then you'll get 1 or 2 people that will actually ask a decent question. And he was like, there you go. That's all that matters. Just grab that question and create a piece of content that gives the answer. And just do that over and over and over again. And you'll see what starts to happen. People will start to come to you and they will start to lean on you for help, because you're constantly engaging them. You're constantly getting them involved in the conversation. You're constantly serving them up answers. And you're putting in the effort. And that was a conversation that I had with one of my team members this morning when we were doing our sales role play calls. I told him there's a difference between effort and time. A lot of times people think, well, I have the prospect in front of me. I have the audience in front of me. I have to get them to some sort of call to action that's going to get them to buy. It's very direct. It's very abrupt. It's very in your face. And that's not necessarily the right move. So let me give you a scenario that, not to get too far off track here, but let me give you a scenario of what I'm talking about. So let's look at 2 salespeople. There's one salesperson that comes to the prospect and tells them everything that they're doing wrong and tells them that their product is the best because it does X, Y, Z, and that's why they should buy. That's like 99.9% of salespeople out there, right? Then there's salesperson B that comes in and says, I got a bunch of questions for you. Let's start with this one. And they do a thorough diagnosis of where that person is and what they're struggling with. And then they say something like, okay, it sounds like XYZ is going on. And that must be tremendously frustrating. So let me be honest with you. Our product may be the right solution, but honestly, I don't know until we get in there and we really roll up our sleeves and we get dirty with it and we try to figure out what's going on. So again, I'll be honest. Can I guarantee that this is going to work and you're going to walk away, so happy and so, no, I cannot guarantee that. But what I can guarantee is that I will be there every step of the way of this engagement. And if we run into a pothole, I'll be there to pull you out. If there's something that you're struggling with at 8 o'clock at night on a Friday afternoon or evening, you know that you could call me and I'll be there. Who do you think's going to buy? Right? Prospect B or prospect A? Of course, prospect B, because that salesperson put in the effort to make that person feel connected and comfortable. That's how you win. That's how you leverage your brand to get people to buy. Now, again, not to lose focus, but taking it from the top, taking it from the top of the funnel, which is all your social media content. What are you doing to put in the effort? What are you saying to put in your audience's minds that you really care about them? Right? So when you continue to show up, continue to answer the questions that your audience is asking, that trust, that credibility, the authority, all of those things wrapped together are going to build a strong presence online. So Peter Butler here on our live stream says, can we be more honest and say that most of the time? We could probably help the client without deep diving. The biggest question is how much do they want to invest? I would rather be the thorough one that goes through that deep dive experience, because I always use this example, but you go to the doctor, you get a doctor that asks you 2 questions and then prescribes you a medication, or do you go with the doctor that asks you 16 questions and then prescribes a different solution? I'm always going to go with the second doctor because I feel more confident in them because they asked more questions. It's just it. And that's just me. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, Peter. I don't. I just don't. So I'm all about going through that deep dive and getting to the core, because at the end of the day, people want to feel like they've been heard. And I don't know if you're going to be able to get that across if you avoid the deep dive. So anyway, getting back to what D-Rock taught me yesterday when I got a chance to meet him at Steve Sims's event is he kind of confirmed and validated this thought that I had in my head. And it was funny because it came from an old movie that I still love to this day called The Bronx Tale. Some of you guys have been listening to me for a while. You know that it's one of my favorite movies. And one of the themes in the movies is nobody cares. Nobody cares. There was a question. Well, if we're telling people on Instagram to go follow us on YouTube, but we're posting the same content on YouTube, what makes them want to move over to YouTube when they could just get the content in Instagram? And D-Rock was like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. I think you're thinking too much into it, he said. He said, you're going to have followers on Instagram that are not on YouTube and vice versa. So just post it. Just send it. Just publish it. Nobody cares. Right? So, and I had to agree with him. You know, I think we think that people are scouring the social media feeds going, oh, they're just Henry's post. He posted 17 times today. Oh my God. Well, I got to call this guy. What is he thinking? Posted 17. I have to take time out of my day to let him know that 17 posts a day are no good. Bro, nobody's thinking that. Nobody would ever take a second to even do any of that. Nobody really cares. What they care about is this 30-second or 60-second piece of content going to help me figure out this problem that I have? And that problem is X. So if you're not speaking to those problems and challenges, and you're not answering those questions, you're not serving up the value that your audience is looking for. Okay. Now, before I wrap up, let me ask you this. Well, how do you get the questions? I touched on it earlier. Okay. I touched on it earlier. You could just straight up ask them on your social feeds and your stories and such. Just ask the question. How can I help you today? What is the biggest business challenge that you have today? Or what can I, what is the biggest fill in your industry challenge you have today? The other thing you could do is use softwares like Answer the Public. You could go to Google and type in a keyword and see what the suggested key phrases are that Google's recommending and create content around that. You could go to past clients. If you ever sent a past client an onboarding questionnaire or some sort of survey of any sort to try to gather insight from prospects or existing clients, you could go and refer to them. And I hope you have a question on those questionnaires that asks something along the lines of what challenges they're facing and how they expect you to help them, and go create content around those answers. You could say, I had a prospect ask me the other day, and I'm just using this for context. Is Pretty Design really going to get me better clients? That's a beautiful piece of content that you could create a whole answer around. Is Pretty Design just going to get you great clients? No, not by itself. It may attract them in, but if you don't have the right offer, if you don't have the right message, if you don't have the right positioning, that sale's not going to transact. So no, it's not going to help you. However, it's definitely going to play a key role in first impressions. If you're selling something premium, don't you think you should look premium? Basic stuff, guys. But these are the fundamental things that make the world turn and get money into your bank account and get you more clients. So those are some things that I learned from D-Rock. By the way, D-Rock is an amazing individual, very, very friendly. He answered every single question. He took every single photo that people asked him to take. I actually got a photo with him as well. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm coming up on episode 500 of the Brand Doctor podcast, and I would love for you to be my 500th episode guest. And he said, dude, send me an email, send me this picture so I can remember you, and let's make it happen. So, big shout out to D-Rock. I love what he was doing. He was talking about his story about how he got Gary Vee as a client pretty much for the rest of his life. And it was all about, giving first and asking later. And he did so much free stuff for Gary in the beginning before Gary hired him. And eventually it reciprocity caught up, and Gary said, "Hey, do you want to come work for me?" And the rest was history. And that was 8 years ago. So go figure. Right. So, dude's got a great head on his shoulders and he's doing amazing things. He's got some side hustles that he's doing on his own that are super cool. And just a really well-rounded guy that works really hard and loves what he does and is extremely passionate about his craft. And you can see it in his work. Right. But the key takeaways was you guys are thinking way too hard into content creation. You should really be posting things that are answering questions to your audience. You should be getting your audience involved by, again, bringing them on to live streams, but like really just immersing yourself into the experience with them and being there for them day in and day out. Because the more effort that you put into them, the more effort they're going to put into you. And at the end of the day, that's what closes the deal. So hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, share, drop your biggest takeaway in the comments, wherever you're watching this or listening to this. Really appreciate that. And if you haven't left a written review yet on iTunes, please do that. That is the fuel to the iTunes algorithm, apparently. So more reviews would be amazing if you could send some love your way. And again, if you haven't subscribed yet to my other channels, please do, because I will be coming to you every Monday, every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, to help you really level up your branding, level up your online presence, and get you higher paying clients. So have an amazing day, and we'll catch you on the next episode real soon. Take care.